Before 3 a.m., we hit the road and set off through the dark trail on our way to the summit of Mount Batulao. The mountains stretched out in waves, with peaks rising and falling like the gentle breath of the earth. Reaching the peak wasn't just an achievement, it was a reflection. For one of my BFFs, the thought of Filipino rice porridge was even more exciting than the steep trail ahead. Before 3 a.m., we were already on the road, traveling from Cavite to Batangas.
Breakfast.
We all either had a light meal or were on an empty stomach. I only brought water and a few snacks for a quick sugar boost, following the advice of my BFF, who's a more seasoned hiker. About an hour, we arrived at the jump-off point. There were already groups of hikers when we arrived. As we got off the car, we felt the cool air. The surroundings were still dark, with only artificial lights illuminating the area. I was the one who pushed for an early morning hike. We took a quick restroom break first. By 3:57 a.m., we began the hike with our guide. The next scenes are still covered in darkness, with more than an hour to go before the first light of day. We needed extra flashlights since it was still really dark all around. There were a few streetlights and house lights, but the darkness still dominated the surroundings. In the silence of the dark, step by step, following the light from our flashlights, walking through the darkness became part of the journey, part of the climb toward the peak. Even though the road is narrow, some vehicles can still get through. There's parking further inside, but it's best we leave the vehicle near the jump-off point. We passed by some handmade wooden walking sticks. At first, we thought we didn't need them, but when we found out they were sold by an elderly man for a living, we went back and bought some. Each stick was 20 pesos. Even before we reached the foot of the mountain, I already had a few memories to carry with me from this adventure. This quiet walk in the dark and a reminder of people like that elderly man quietly earning a living in simple ways. Less than an hour into the hike, we arrived at the first registration point where we paid an entry fee of 80 pesos each. The registration fee usually helps with trail maintenance and ensures safety and conservation of the mountain. At the registration points, there are washrooms, fees double, and are not always usable due to the lack of water. The trail was lined with tall, overgrown grass along the narrow path we were walking. I asked the guide if snakes ever suddenly crossed the trail, and he said yes. According to our guide, having a guide is required by local authorities and the community for safety. Not sure if it's strictly enforced, but for safety, I recommend having a guide, especially for non-seasoned hikers. More on that later. At this point, we had to choose between the new or old trail, so I left the decision to my BFF since they're more experienced and have already reached Mount Batulao's peak. The old trail is steeper and more challenging, with some narrow and rope sections, while the new trail is easier, more open, and quicker to hike. We chose to take the new trail for this climb. Although it's generally easier and more open, it still requires caution. There are steep drop-offs on both sides of the trail. One wrong step could send you all the way down to the base of the mountain. So having a guide really helps, especially in the dark. The cold air was getting to BFF in purple. We reached the second registration point where we paid 20 pesos each. After a quick rest, we were back on our feet and continued the hike. At the jump-off point, guides are already waiting for arriving hikers. Guide fees are usually 800 to 1,500 pesos, plus entrance fees of around 160 to 240 pesos depending on the trail. Our guide charged us 1,000 pesos. We reached the last registration and paid 60 pesos. In total, it came to 160 pesos each. Peak 8 is called Dinah's Peak, named after a hiker who fell there. We were moving at a steady pace with minimal rest, and our guide expected us to reach the main peak while it was still dark. But before reaching Peak 9, we encountered a bit of traffic and caught up with other hikers who were also in line. From where we stood, the gentle glow of the town on the left toward Laurel and Tagaytay lit up the night, while the lights from 2 shimmered on the right. It's my BFF's second time at Mount Batulao, while it's only my second hike. Our very first hike was 11 years ago at Pico de Loro. To my surprise, I was actually the one who initiated that first climb. I had no idea that one simple hike would turn into years of them exploring different mountains and reaching new peaks. Those tiny lights from hikers on the old trail felt like a quiet reminder of the spark that began their love for the mountains, starting with my simple invite to climb Pico de Loro. We gave way to a horse carrying supplies along the narrow trail where vendors set up stall. Back to our hiking story, I had to return to Dubai, so I missed many of their mountain adventures. If I were here, I know I'd be right there with them every time. We could already see the Peak 9 sign from a distance, but our pace became slower, so we simply enjoyed the cool breeze and the surroundings still covered in darkness. For this vacation, hiking is a priority for me. I made a promise to myself that I can't return to Dubai without climbing a mountain, even if I have to do it alone. Hiking is one of the adventures I love. Living among skyscrapers and the fast-paced rhythm of city life, I found myself craving nature, silence, and a sense of adventure. After more than 15 minutes, the line finally moved and we passed Peak 9. We slowed down earlier as the trail became narrower, with steep sections where we had to use ropes for support. Since only one person could go at a time, we had to wait for each other to pass.
Okay.
I didn't get to film the trail earlier because it was still quite dark, and some parts of the trail had steep drop-offs on the side. Given our steady pace and minimal breaks, our guide expected that we would reach the summit while it was still dark. But we hit traffic again, and by the time we were approaching Peak 11, dawn was already breaking. A lot of hikers came today, and many were already at the summit, waiting for the sunrise. We even passed by tents of hikers who stayed overnight. I didn't mind the traffic at all, because everything around us was already a view worth slowing down for. From the new trail of Mount Batulao on our way to Peak 11, the mountains unfolded in waves, peaks rising and falling like gentle breaths of the earth. Everything felt quiet, still, and serene, as if time itself had softened. I was reminded why I chose this journey. To be held, even briefly, by the peace of nature. I had already prepared myself for a solo climb.
Wala tong post-post.
But God blessed me with these BFFs who walk with me through life's ups and downs, both on rugged trails and in the journey of life.
Dito rin tayo makakadaan mamaya.
Do you also have friends who support you in both your achievements and your crazy ideas?
So anong plano? Oo, trail tayo?
We haven't even reached the top, and we're already talking about the trail back down.
Sorry.
Finally, we reached Peak 11, just a few more steps away from the summit.
Nasa likod, nagsisinga. Oh, singa pa. Hindi ko na kaya. Tissue break. Pakita ka.
Mount Batulao is widely known for having 12 distinct peaks. It reaches an elevation of around 811 meters and features a scenic ridge trail. It's rated 4 over 9 in difficulty, making it beginner-friendly, with an estimated time of 2 to 4 hours to reach the summit. The line for the peak sign photo op was already long, and even the sun didn't come out to welcome our arrival. 6:52 a.m. After 3 hours, we reached the summit. At this moment, my heart felt even fuller than the crowded summit before us. Because of a desire. Yes, a long-held one in my heart was finally fulfilled. I can go back to Dubai, leaving nothing unfinished behind. I chose not to join the long line of hikers waiting for photos at the summit sign. I just had my photo taken on the side instead. In that moment, my heart was full and content, not just from reaching the top, but because I got to hike again and even more, I shared it with my BFFs. While BFF in purple was more excited about the rice porridge with boiled egg and lined up to order, BFF in brown insisted that we shouldn't leave without taking a photo on this grassy spot. The output didn't turn out the way she imagined, so we made up for it with warm rice porridge and boiled egg. This is such a nice treat after a 3-hour hike, warm rice porridge with lots of garlic. Bon appetite. I also brought some sweet chico that was given to me by my elementary teacher, freshly picked from their tree. After eating, we decided to start our descent. There were many hikers at the summit, some going down and many still climbing up. We are caught up in traffic again since the trail is narrow and everyone had to take turns. Enjoy the next footage of the mountain views. Traffic usually builds up in steep sections with drop-offs on the side, where ropes provide support for a safer, more careful climb up and down.
Isa, selfie ng selfie. Pero nasa duldo? Hindi. Ano, mental health. Kailangan ng fresh air.
On days like this, when many people suddenly decide to climb a mountain instead of staying home and being lazy, having a guide helps. Guides coordinate the flow, managing who goes first, whether ascending or descending. This view makes the climb worth it. Do you enjoy climbing mountains like we do? Have you conquered any peaks? After 15 minutes of slow progress, we were about to pass a risky section of the trail.
Ay, grabe. Kalakas naman yun. Akad. Sige.
Ropes were installed in sections like this for hikers to hold on to, making the climb safer and easier. We decided to take the new trail again on the way down since we were still after the view, especially for me.
Stop muna yan. Gawa nang merong akit lang.
They also wanted to explore, but I could really feel that they always prioritized my preference. I didn't need to explain, they understood that I needed this adventure, this kind of moment to take with me back to Dubai. In moments with my BFFs, every step, whether easy or challenging like this one, becomes a memory I'll always hold close.
Stop na rin!
After we came down, those descending were stopped again to give way to the hikers going up. With a larger group behind us, priority was given to those still climbing.
Isa lang yan. Sabi niya na din lang yan. Bahay lang dapat ako, wala naman malaki ito. Demiretso. Siya may nasa itaas. Nagtutundok may galit na. Kaya nga.
At this moment, I paused. I took in the view, knowing it might take a while before I get to climb the mountain again. Our descent was quite fast.
Ano tinatanggal mo dyan? Ganyan. Dito ba nga? Hindi ko alam yun.
We only paused when we came across a plant that brought back memories from our childhood. This is one of the flowers I've always loved.
Baka si Kuya. Kuya! Ay, Romel! Marunong ka magpatunog nito?
We even dragged our guide into our silliness.
Ano? Loko mo naman kami.
While BFF in purple was determined to prove that the flower makes a sound, because to me hearing is believing. BFF in brown was busy on her phone, looking at the flower's unique shape with a playful smile.
Ay, may umabol na sa atin.
Not to brag, but we hardly took any breaks compared to the other hikers. Even our guide was surprised.
Sweet potato! Ah.
The other guides even teased our guide, saying it looked like he didn't want us to stop and rest. My friends really made sacrifices for me on this adventure. I was wearing the wrong shoes, they were too tight and on one of the steep. Rocky downhill sections, I twisted my right big toe, which made it hurt even more. We ended up switching footwear so I could continue comfortably. BFF in purple gave me her sandals. She wore BFF in brown shoes and BFF in brown wore mine.
Ako.
I felt grateful and very guilty. They could have just let me struggle or walk barefoot, but they didn't. Whether it was out of concern or maybe a little irritation from hearing me say ouch, it still made me realize how much they care. I was really in pain. My toenail died. The first part of the hike felt easy, but since it was still dark earlier, I had no idea about the surrounding. After a few kilometers, the actual trail begins, with alternating forested paths and open grassy hills. Eventually, we reached a junction where the trail splits into the new trail and the old trail. Overall, the terrain of Mount Batulao is a mix of grassland ridges, rocky paths, and steep ascents and descents. Some parts are quite exposed, so it can get really hot under the sun in summer. But once you reach the ridges, it becomes windy and refreshing.
Kanina pala siya both sides.
It is known for its rolling dinosaur-like ridges.
Ika-ika dahil sa akin.
Offers wide panoramic views of Batangas and Cavite. It is considered one of the most beginner-friendly mountains in Luzon. We've reached the village that you pass through before the base of the mountain.
Balik na natin.
We returned the stick so Grandpa could sell it again. As the hike came to an end, I carried with me more than a damaged toenail. Something bigger. The trail, the views, the challenges, and most importantly, the moments with my BFFs. This journey will stay with me long after the mountain. A big thank you to everyone who supported and followed this journey.
Please don't forget to subscribe and hit bell button of Paul Tonet for more videos.